What's up, everybody? Welcome to Bingetown TV's Dark and Twisted podcast. I am Kathleen. I am here today with my co-hosts Brian and Jimmy, and we are here to talk about season 3 of Yellowjackets, episode 4, titled 12 Angry Girls and One Drunk Travis. And we're going to talk about the drunk Travis of it all later, but I specifically thought this episode, specifically the 1996 timeline, or I guess it might be 97, absolutely amazing. The People versus Benjamin Scott was everything I could have ever hoped for. The seriousness in which they took the trial, but like the little beats of imperfection, because of course they're just teenagers putting on a trial and they've probably only seen stuff on TV, so they're just making it up as they go. I thought they did amazing. Specifically, the actresses that play the Misties are always good, always casted perfectly. But this episode, young Misty shined. I mean, I couldn't tell the difference between old and young Misty in this episode. It reminded me of last season with the cake when she's like, I want my lawyer. That's the only thing you should be saying. I mean, it was perfection. And while the present day stuff wasn't my favorite part of the episode and it wasn't like too exciting, we got two really great moments. One, another great Cranberries moment with Linger after last season's zombie moment. And then, of course, the last beat of the episode, which was absolutely insane. So those are my thoughts. I'm just really excited to talk about it, to be here with you guys. I'm going to throw it to Jimmy to say his thoughts.
I agree with you, Kathleen. The 96 timeline was just amazing for this episode. I have some notes. I have some things I definitely want to talk to you guys about.
Yeah.
The tides may be turning on certain things and certain characters who I like or don't like. Maybe we'll be talking about it during the MVPs and the buzz kills. But otherwise, what a great episode. Like you said, Kathleen, the present day, there's a big moment. There's a big moment at the end. But otherwise, it was a little bit slower than 96, but there's plenty to talk about. Brian, what do you do? Go.
Yeah, maybe I'm on my own here. I thought this was probably the weakest of the 4 episodes, but that's not to say it was bad and I didn't enjoy it. This is one of those shows where I just love it so much that like there's a very high floor for the episodes, and this certainly met that floor. I think a little bit of it was definitely acknowledging that the present day timeline was a little bit of filler stuff, that whole arc at the retirement home. And that's fine. We got a lot of Jeff and Randy, which was great to see them again, and they were in their element. So that kind of provided some laughs and stuff. Mic drop moment at the end. Can't wait to get into that. But like you guys have been saying, the People versus Benjamin Scott was fantastic. And I think the highlight of the episode, if not the season so far, was Coach's monologue on the stand, just pouring his heart out about what these girls meant to him and being honest too. And I'm really excited to get to that. But a good, maybe not as good as the last episode or even the last 3 episodes, but a very strong episode nonetheless.
Yeah, I think that exactly what you said. It's because of the adults have been killing it 3 episodes in a row. So to see them lacking, and adult Lottie was both my MVP and my buzzkill last episode, and now what? What am I to believe at the end of this? So we got a lot to get into, but shall we go as always in chronological order?
Let's do it.
Let's do
with
it.
The People versus Benjamin Scott. How about the first scene? Let's just talk about Travis. Let's talk about drunk Travis first, because one, I didn't even notice that he was specifically drunk, but him casually waking up from like a gorgeous night's sleep to all the girls coming back with Coach Scott was so funny to me, because we were like, he wasn't in the last episode. And now he's like, what's going on?
Yeah. Very, very weird. I don't know what the name of this title is supposed to be about. Guys, hit us up, bingetown.tv.com/Discord if there's any kind of anything.
So the 12 Angry Girls is a reference to a movie called 12 Angry Men, who was a room of jurors. So that one is just a like for like of a famous movie. The drunk Travis of it all, I have no idea. And I wasn't taking it literally because I didn't get the feeling that he was like on shrooms or drunk or anything like that. So it was weird.
Yeah, agreed.
And we also did get a comment on our YouTube from Book Monkey 1712 that Travis was in the episode last episode. They show him sitting as Akila tries to decline whatever Lottie has in mind for her. So he was in it. It just was like maybe he didn't have a speaking line. It was fleeting. So thank you for calling us out. We love that. So let's get to it. So we have Judge Nat presiding in her great outfit. I love that. Thaisa's the prosecution, which is just great for her current job. You know, she's a lawyer in real life. She's a killer. And then who better than Misty? How excited were you when you realized Misty was going to be with Coach Scott?
As soon as Misty decided that she was on Scott's side after they had Coach Scott's side, after they had the conversation and she gave him that nice smack in the face, you knew she was going to go all out for him. And I was in. I was totally in to see what Misty was going to do to defend him, and she did not disappoint.
Yeah, I think Ty versus Misty going head to head is exactly what we could have hoped for. Misty, say what you will about her, that girl is smart as a whip, and she's savvy, and she knows how to kind of manipulate things in her favor. So like you guys said, you know she was going to go all out right from that smack scene. And Thaisa is just a force of freaking nature, even as a kid. I remember in season 1, it was back when they were even in school, and the coach is talking to Jackie about why he made her captain, and he's just like, oh my gosh. And Thaisa, like, don't even get me started on that girl. She's just a freak. So this was great.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Ty was one of the first people that we saw do something Yellowjackets-ish. And when I say Yellowjackets-ish, I mean the girls now. When she attacked or did the sliding tackle on the one girl that she believes shouldn't be playing during the championship game during the States, Allie, yes, who ends up being at the reunion.
That accent at the reunion, unforgettable. Could never forget.
So we know Ty doesn't mess around, and obviously as this time has gone on, she's gotten even more so, I'm not messing around, and she was a very good foil for Misty. Now, I will say, I know that this was actually the best thing that they could do, and it was what Nat was hoping could happen. She's obviously the one as the Antler Queen, quote unquote, the person who is their leader. She wanted this trial because she didn't want it to just be savagery and have Shauna win and Shauna decide that they're going to just take out Coach Scott. But it's also very brave to have this happen because you have these girls going against each other when they make their decision here. We saw Misty and Shauna and Ty all going at it with each other. Then all of a sudden, Nat has to be defending herself. It seems like it was an easy way for a lot of division to start happening within the group.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But at the same time, I mean, that's kind of the point of the trial, you know, like they got to get to the bottom of this. And I think most of them went into it like with their pitchforks out. Misty reluctantly defended him. Nat, we know her motives, but she felt maybe as the leader, she had to provide a voice of reason. Like, listen, if we just put him at the stake, it's savagery. So I don't think it initially started off as like creating a rift between the girls, but it certainly did get a little messy as the trial went on.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, it's a bummer because obviously we know where Nat stands. And I think if it came out that Ben actually burned the house down, I think Nat would be like, okay, you need to be punished, right? But I think Nat truly believes that Ben didn't do it. So when Nat at the beginning to Shauna says it's going to be a 2/3 majority or whatever, and Shauna's like, it should just be majority, like majority wins, they actually screwed themselves because if that was the case, they would have won. Ben would have been, acquitted of the crime, and she ended up getting screwed. But I couldn't like help but think Ben was quiet the entire episode. And, the whole point is that he got out of Dodge because he's like, these girls are crazy. I'm going to be next. They don't need me. They're going to eat me. Like they're nuts. They don't listen to me anymore. Like, what's the point? And I couldn't help but keep thinking like, he must be rolling his eyes out of his head. Like all he wanted to do was get out. And now he's at the mercy of the people he didn't want to be. They're swearing on a pack of cards. They're doing all kinds of stuff that it's like, I don't understand any of this, but I am at the mercy of it. And I just felt bad because for us, it's like as the viewers, we kind of know he didn't do it. And I say no loosely because we truly don't know what happened. We have some inklings, but it's a tough watch to know one thing and just to see them go through this, even though I loved it.
We'll specifically get into that when we talk about Coach Ben and when he gives his testimony and his little monologue, like you were alluding to, Brian. But yeah, we find out that he was a coach there / substitute teacher for 9 years. This guy's like 30 something and he's sitting there with these teenage girls and he's sitting on a stump or whatever the hell he's sitting on, a chair, and they're just tearing him up and deciding what's going to happen to him. And a little foreshadowing for what my opinion is going to be when he had his monologue. While it was very touching, and I know that that's probably the way he had to go if he wanted to save his life, I would be like, this is ridiculous. I would be like, my goodness, this is so crazy right now. But let's rewind a little bit. Let's talk first about Misty. She goes to Coach Scott. She smacks him, says, I thought we were friends. And then he does very well. And he's not acting, as far as we know. Again, we don't know if he burned the cabin down, but for now, we're going to say he wasn't acting. And he's playing very well the defeated person because, like I said, as far as we know, he is defeated. And he says, listen, whatever I say, whatever you do, everyone's made the decision. Why would I lie to you now? I didn't burn the cabin down. So with that little bit of a speech, he wins Misty over. And then Misty's got his back. So we're good there.
Missy being the lawyer is perfection. It really is. And she does a great job. Like, let's bring up our first witness. It's Mari, right? Mari's the one that all this started at because she fell in his ditch, in his pit. Okay, so they swear on the deck of cards. Ty gets her first. And Ty's strategy is to spin Ben as deranged and kind of pigeonhole Mari into saying that Ben didn't want the payback from the girls. And right away, I'm like, oh, he's so dead. Like, there's just no way. But then Misty comes in with a punch. Did he say payback for what? Like, could Coach Scott have killed you? Did he why did he take you to the cave? Like, he could have killed you, right? Like, he physically could have killed you, left you in the pit, etc., etc. Does that seem like a vengeful murderer to you? And she does so good. Yeah. She does excellent.
I dare say Misty was the better lawyer than Ty.
Oh, yeah.
I thought Misty completely threw her off her game. Nat had to remind her, Ty, no preaching, because she started off with Mari saying this traumatic experience in the cave, and Misty's like, that's an opinion. Traumatic. Yeah. Who said it was traumatic? Mari didn't say it was traumatic. She's like, oh, I think everybody did. It was just so funny. But no, Misty was on her game, and I love to see it. Swearing Mari in on the deck of cards, and Lottie, of course, tries to do her whole theatrical wilderness stuff, and that's like, she swears to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Okay, are we good here? Like, keep it moving, Lottie. Mari's knee-jerk reaction, because she was the first one called up, she just goes, oh shit, like, we're actually doing this like a trial. So I just thought it was so well done. But once they get into it, how seriously they were taking, I got to give these girls props. They knew more lawyer terminology than I would have, and they seemingly were using it correctly. It was very good. But Misty does a good job with Mari. I mean, that's the burning question. If he was a vengeful, deranged guy, why would he even bother taking you out of the pit? Could he have killed you in the cave? And she's like, yeah, absolutely, he could have. It's like, all right, well, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, and first thing I want to say before I get into the Mari talk is I am so happy that they didn't swear everybody in. I figured they weren't going to do that, but oh my gosh.
We get it.
I was like, please do not do that when everybody talks. But Mari started off acting kind of like the Mari that we've been kind of beaten up on the last couple episodes, right? Oh, he made me eat bats and he was deranged and he was talking to himself and all this stuff. And I will say, I'm surprised nobody else went back to the he was talking to himself thing. Maybe they'll get to that in another episode. But to your guys' point, as the questions, even some of Ty's, go forward and proceed, Mari starts having a little bit of a heart and actually being honest here, whether she feels like her swear-in actually means something with this wilderness or not. But, she was saying, yeah, he could have killed me in the pit. He could have left me there for dead. He could have killed me in the cave. There's plenty of times. It's like, as soon as Maury started talking about that stuff, I was like, well, that's almost perfect for him being acquitted. Because if you're to think he actually burned the cabin down, then immediately he would either just leave Maury in the pit and not care, or kill her later in the cave. But he had 2 shots to do it, and he didn't do it. So huge check to start with Misty. But it really did go back and forth with Ty versus Misty, and I'm literally bouncing, and I'm like, oh, damn, yeah. Oh, damn.
Something I'm surprised that didn't come up, which was kind of an interesting moment when it happened, is Coach Scott was like, the cabin burned down, and Maury's like, you didn't see the smoke? Like, what goes on? Because obviously Ben was in his little cave. You just didn't see the smoke. I mean, it seemed like they fed it for 12 days. It would kind of be crazy to not see the smoke for 12 days. Either way, surprised that either didn't come up in his defense or against him with Maury, to be like, he said he didn't even know about the smoke. And another thing is, this is kind of a side tangent, but I can't believe Maury wasn't bragging about the hot chocolate. I would be, screw the trial. I'm like holding him at gunpoint being like, where's the case? Where's the hot chocolate? Like, I want the hot chocolate. I don't care about you. I want hot chocolate.
And we don't know that she saw the actual case. I can't even remember if it's sitting there in the cave when he brings out the hot chocolate. But there is a few things that I'm very surprised they haven't really touched on yet. And the cabin burning down and him saying, I didn't even know it burned down. Coach Scott saying that doesn't help his cause at all, because they could just be like, bro, seriously, you're lying. But if Maury would have said it, that would have helped him at least a little bit. But we have Shauna. You know, this trial isn't fully clean, and we'll obviously get into that later. But we have people throwing down who aren't supposed to be talking, and Shauna would have ate that up if he would have said something, or even if Maury would have said it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's continue with Miss Shauna Shipman, because she is the next one to be called up to the stands, and Misty gets her first, and she's pressing her on, okay, what were you doing the night of the fire? Oh, you were journaling. What about? I care, because she could have been journaling saying she wanted to start a fire or whatever. And then she starts pressing her on, you've been through this stressful time. Your child died. You were the one that had to carve up Javi. Like, any of this could have turned someone to starting a fire. Ty's starting to feel the heat. And then she gets up here and just tries to throw more wood on Shauna's hatred fire of Coach. And it's just like, hey, what did Coach do when you were in labor? Was he helpful? And to be fair, Coach was not very helpful. He totally crumbled in that situation. I completely forgot that he said all I did was press play on a VHS.
But do you think that's relevant? To me,
No.
I'm objecting the hell out of that, because leading up to that, Coach was in his little hallucination station, right? He's thinking about Paul. He's like comatose in the bed, basically. It was very bad timing for my man, Coach Scott, okay?
Mm-hmm. And either way, we have Javi, who unfortunately we know what happens to him. But then we have Travis and Coach Scott. They're the only guys left on this trip. If I was a guy on this trip, even if I wanted to help, I would be like, I don't know what to do here. I'm so sorry, but I pushed play on the VHS tape, and I have nothing that I can do to help, really, unless you want me to just sit here and watch. Like, I have nothing I can do to help, and I'm so sorry. But I mean, I know that Coach Scott did kind of just be like, sorry, I'm out. But still, I agree that would have been an objection, because a lot of people would have reacted that way, and that does not equal I'm going to burn the cabin down.
Now, I think Ty's intention of bringing that up, which admittedly was irrelevant, was just to get Shauna pointed in the right direction, get her all revved up, because her follow-up question was something to the effect of, do you think Coach is a bad person, or does he dislike us, or something like that, or why do you think he might have done it? And she says, I think he tried to burn the cabin down because he's always resented that he's not one of us. He's always judged us. He doesn't follow all the things that we've been doing here. We had to survive, and he hates that we survived without him. He's just not one of us. So that was Shauna's pretty much entire testimony. I think Shauna was not necessarily a valuable witness for Ty because it was clear as day she would say whatever had to be said just to kill Coach.
Super bias.
Yep. And on the flip side, when Lottie comes up, Lottie was basically just a vessel for Misty to get her point across, which was to point at every single other person and say, could it be them? Could it be them? And create reasonable doubt, which was amazing. She even drops it could have been Crystal, which was a 10 out of 10 line. Like when she said, it could have been Crystal, could have been any of us. That sounds like reasonable doubt to me. I was like, sold. Yeah, I was screaming in the pews, baby.
And to Coach Scott's point, when he talks to Misty, when she decides she's actually going to fully help him and be in on this trial, until he has his little monologue and starts to sway the girls with some of them starting to cry and feel for him and everything, no matter how good Misty did, like if you want to just say Coach Scott's the one that you're going to blame, the girls just raised their hand. And that was kind of what he's been trying to say this whole time. It's like, listen, if you could think I didn't do it, but if you just want me to be gone and you want this trial to be over, these girls are just going to raise their hand and we got majority and it's over. Like you can say all you want, reasonable doubt and all that stuff. That works in the courtroom for real.
Yeah.
But not in the wilderness. If the girls have their minds changed or their minds set, it's set. And obviously we get there when we have Shauna doing what she did towards the end, which just totally ruins everything. But go ahead.
I guess my big question here, and a question we'll have to talk about is, what is Coach Ben's fate? What do these girls want? Do they want to eat him? Is like that they're gonna kill him and cook him or save him for winter? Like what are we doing here? Because they want him punished, but what does that mean?
If it was cold out, there would be no trial. He'd already be dead and in their bellies.
Yeah.
But it's warm out, so the timing of this isn't good because I don't know, what are they going to kill him and try and preserve his meat? That if they kill him, they can't waste the food. That's
But
that's period.
There's no way you can save it either in this weather.
No.
Exactly. So do they keep him alive for the winter for that? But that also expends resources. They can't let him go because they've already showed concern that he's dangerous. He would be a threat if he's just left alone in the wilderness. He could come back and attack. So that's a very good question. I don't know where this is headed. I would assume Shauna is going to petition the group to kill him and just not have any further plans than that. And I think someone like Nat is going to be able to lay out the points that I just did. You know, he is a resource.
Yeah. And if you're somebody that understands, or I'm sorry, understand is definitely not the right word, believes in the wilderness and the religious side of it, Lottie, any of those girls, you probably think that the trial, if he's convicted, means that you're going to sacrifice him to the wilderness. If you're Shauna, who doesn't believe at this time, and any of them, they probably just want revenge and to kill him. But you have a perfectly 100% valid point. As long as they aren't like all of a sudden deciding like life is good now, hopefully winter never comes, and we have some bunnies and some rabbits that we're going to eat and some ducks, they should be thinking about, as awful as that sounds, they should be thinking about resources and all of that kind of stuff. But I don't know where their head really is at this point.
I will say at the beginning of the episode, Nat said to Misty when she was like, it has to be you to defend him. If you do a good job, you might save his life. So I think it's already been established. The stakes of this are life and death for Ben.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I always took it that way.
If we're taking it A, B, C, D, like he is guilty. If Nat wants to be an unbiased leader, she will have to carry out the sentence of death. Shauna is probably going to wield the knife gladly, but I think Nat has to do that, which brings me back to Nat, I think, could get herself in hot water if she even tries to say, hey, let's pump the brakes. We might want to eat him when it gets cold. Let's keep him around, because I don't think that's what the girls want to hear after the trial's already been done and dusted.
What do we learn from Game of Thrones, guys?
Whoever wield the sword. Passes the sentence should wield the sword.
There you go. Exactly.
Shout out Ned Stark.
Shout out Ned Stark, baby. But before we move on to the next person who speaks, I do want to bring up Nat here. And this outfit that she's wearing, Is that the first iteration of the Antler Queen outfit that we see? Seems like it, huh? And interestingly enough, she is the judge and her face is not covered, but at some point they decide that when these sacrifices are happening, the person's face needs to be covered, which very convenient for suspense and mystery, but it's also very, very cool because it could mean a lot of different things. And it may not just necessarily mean whoever's wearing it is the actual queen.
I just want to say that Nat herself in this episode is so calm, cool, collected, even when she's on trial in this scene and she's getting heat, right? Because Shauna tells Thaisa what to do and what to say because of what Misty told her the episode before. I just think Nat is so good here, and it's gonna go tumbling off a cliff at some point, and they're not gonna trust her anymore, and they're gonna yeet her, and maybe it's because of this. But even during this, and maybe I'm so biased towards Nat because she's one of my favorites of the girls, but this defense, or I guess the attack on Nat, it still like doesn't really make that much sense to me. I guess what they're saying here is you saw him after he left, but before the fire. So he came back. Like, how do you know he didn't come back again? Why were you so sure?
Why did you
he
let
was
him
out
go?
there. Exactly. Right. And Nat just didn't say anything. So I guess I get it, but where do you guys fall? Because I think I'm fully biased.
I thought Nat could have actually done a lot more to help Coach's case because Ty thought she had her with the question, why did you let him leave? I would have been like, because he wasn't a threat. He hadn't burned down the cabin the last time I saw him. I thought he was just heading out into the woods. He's allowed to do that. He wasn't bothering anybody, doing anything wrong. I let him leave because he's allowed to leave if he wants to. There was no rule against that. She completely ducked the question and was like, overruled. I'm not going to let you ask me that. I couldn't understand why.
I think that like what she was scared of was something that specifically didn't come out word for word. And that was what Shauna was trying to get Ty to get her to say, where I knew where he was the entire time, because Nat came out and said, I knew he was alive. And if Ben would have been asked that question, he would have, if he actually believes that he has to fully tell the truth, he would have had to say, you know, we had this conversation. I found out where Javi was hiding. That's where I'm going to go. But what that condemns Nat to the group as a liar because he was protecting him. But at the same time, that helps Coach. And if Nat decided she wanted to say that, she could have been like, all right, guys, listen. Coach was fully in his right mind. He said he needed to go. He said he had a spot. He even asked me to come with him. I said, I'm not coming with him. I'm going to stay with you guys. But I let him go, and I knew he was somewhere far away or whatever, and that's it. Like, that condemns her, but that still doesn't seem like it doesn't make the girls think, yes, he could come back, but it wouldn't make them think like he had revenge or he wanted to do something or he was looking deranged and he wanted to attack the girls or whatever it was. It goes more along the narrative that he just wanted to go.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. She could have kind of put that out there a little bit better than she did. And also Nat didn't know his exact location, right?
Right.
She only just knew place. Okay.
She knows that he had a place to go, right? And so that condemns her because it's the same thing that they were pissed at him about, where they would have been like, we had a cabin burning to the freaking ground. We had to keep it burning to stay alive. And you knew that some kind of cave existed where Javi lived and survived. And you didn't bring us there because you were protecting Coach.
Yeah, but again, she wasn't there. She doesn't know what he says to her, if I recall. And it's been like a couple weeks since I've seen season 2, but he says it could fit the both of us, I think. He's not like, it's gigantic. It could fit 15 or 16, you know, and it probably couldn't. You know, we saw the chaos that happened last episode and all the creeks and weird hallways and water and stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, she didn't help him. But again, I do think Nat was taking sort of a Switzerland type of stance here, but leaning towards the side of empathy and not even forgiveness, because she truly doesn't think he did it, but she's just one of the more saner people, so she could kind of think straighter. But oh man. And then, because of all this, Coach Scott has to be called as a witness. And it seems like Missy was not gonna call Coach Scott as a witness because he's kind of a wild card.
So exactly. I was sitting there the whole time being like, is Coach Scott going to speak? This is ridiculous. But Misty had Ty in a way where Shauna says to Ty, what are you going to freaking do? And Ty was like, I was going to rest. I was done.
Yeah.
And we don't know that if Ty says I rest, Misty could still say I'm bringing Coach Scott up to do his final testimony or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know what would have happened, but Shauna threw the big wrench, and Shauna wanted blood, and she went to Ty and said, yo, I got some info, use it, bring that up on board. Now, before we get into Coach Scott, let me ask you this question. So when we get into the campsite and Coach Scott is being brought in for the first time, he's looking around, and you could take it multiple ways, right? You can take it like he's looking around and he's going, wow, they did this. This is crazy. Good for them, which he says in his monologue. But there is a theory out there that what we're seeing is not actually the truth.
I've seen that theory. I like that.
Yes. So for anyone who doesn't know, and I'm seeing Brian's face, and so he hasn't seen this theory, the theory is that the girls are actually not doing well at all. And they're so starved, or they're in such a delusion that they're seeing this to make themselves feel better. And really, it's awful. Like, there's no huts. There's, no real food. It's maybe some food, etc. And the main part of this theory is based on how you kind of see the wilderness, where there's like a golden tint to it.
Hue,
Hue. So, and then there's other times where it's like a little darker blue, and you're like, is that real? Is the golden part not real? Or is the golden part not real and the blue's real when we're seeing certain things? And my point here is that Coach Scott could have been looking around being like, oh, this is awful. And these girls it's not good. It's worse than I thought. And they're worse than I thought, meaning deranged, right? The reason I bring this up is because when he does his monologue, to me, it was a little surprising. And I'm not saying surprising because, listen, you have to tug at the heartstrings, because if you just try to throw down with them, they're just going to be like, all right, majority, get the hell out of here, right? I don't know how I would react, but I'm just saying there would be a part of me, and I already alluded to this in the intro-ish, when I was like, if I'm sitting here at 30-something years old and these girls, whether it's actually great or not, whether this is real or not, I have these teenage girls who I used to teach and coach getting to decide if I'm going to literally live or die, I would kind of be sitting here like, this is ridiculous, right? Now, I'm not blaming him for not saying that, but I could think that if things are very bad and we're seeing sunshine and rainbows, and they're actually a little bit, quote unquote, more crazier than we think at this moment, he might have thought, like, there's no way I can fight with these girls. I have to try and just be like, please, 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 please. I don't want to die. Please save me. I love you guys, etc. He might think that of them anyway because of what he's always seen and all the cannibal and everything with the cabin anyway. But I just think that it was a little bit like out of nowhere when he pulled the whole, I loved you guys and I did this. Like, for the longest time, he was like, even with Misty, he was like, all right, like, whatever, dude, you're going to kill me anyway. Like, I don't even have anything in me anymore. Like, it did seem kind of out of nowhere to me.
I completely disagree with that take. I think this entire monologue was genuine from the heart of Coach, because like the first minute of it, he's not holding any punches. She's like, do you even like us? He's like, no, I didn't want to teach. I don't particularly like kids. This isn't what I wanted out of my life. But like, I did become a substitute teacher, and hey, I wound up liking it, which I'm sure a lot of teachers wind up doing that. Like, I got to do something. Oh, hey, these kids are pretty cool. I started coaching you guys. I fell in love with you. You guys wound up being the best in the state. And I think that was complete honesty out of coach, because the two extremes that you described, him, you guys are crazy. Like, what are we even doing here? Or him begging on his knees, please, please, please spare me. He wasn't either of those extremes. It was somewhere in the middle. And I think his will to survive is not completely empty, but it's very low right now. Hence okay, I'm on one leg. There's 12 girls that can easily overpower me and take me out whenever. I'm not going to resist whatever's happening. I'm going to let the proceedings go on. I'm certainly not going to turn up the heat of the situation and rile them up, but I'm also not going to beg and plead and embarrass myself or anything. I'm just going to say my piece. I'm going to speak from the heart. And I think everything that he said was truthful. Probably my favorite part of it was the anecdotes that he was saying. He was like, if I actually wanted to hurt you guys, I would have told on you for getting so shit-faced the day before our first away game of the season. I would have turned in Ty and Van when I caught you in the parking lot, and I would have put Misty on the team so that she could have gotten embarrassed. Like, I think this was coach laying it all out, and his just like, I do not hate you guys. And even if I did, I do not hate you to the extent that I want to kill you. Like, that's not even in the realm of possibility for me.
Yeah, and let me backtrack. Like, I fully agree with you. Like, when I said I'm surprised, I am surprised, but I definitely think what he said was true. I was playing devil's advocate based on if we're saying that what he's seeing isn't real, and I was trying to kind of make more sense of it. I do think that what he said was true. I'm just surprised that that's where he went, because I almost took it like this character is done. So I was expecting him to go from cabin where he decides to leave, where he's like, you guys are crazy, to Mari, where he's like leaving her in the pit and talking to her. And he's like, I'm going to take you out. You guys are the ones that are savages who are eating people, and you're going to call me out. To now with Misty, where he's like, all right, I'm defeated. I don't really care anymore. So I was expecting, and I'm sorry if I wasn't being clear, I was expecting him to be like, either this is crazy or I have nothing to say because I don't have, you know what I mean? Now,
like a blaze of glory, like, fuck you guys.
I was like, because like, to be
interesting,
like, again, I thought that he was going to lose this trial without any issues. I thought Nat was going to vote to keep him alive. I thought Misty, obviously, even though those people can't vote. So I thought he was going to lose, definitely. So I thought he was going to go out with the blaze of glory. And I was only saying that my surprise was based on that. Like, I definitely agree with you. I think those words were true. I just didn't expect that.
Yeah, okay. Coach Scott is so down bad. We know he's a good dude, but we've talked about it. He's an older guy in a group of girls besides Travis. He's in a league of his own there. He is now only has one leg. He is miserable because he is like certain, even this in season 1, season 2, season 3, even before he's on trial, that he's going to die before he can like really come out and live his life and be happy. Like, he's just at a point in his life where he doesn't give a shit. So to hear him in the beginning be like, fuck you, I don't care about you, and then turn, I bought it. I was on Brian's side. But again, we're all on the same side here. We're all
on the Yellowjackets team. Me and Brian aren't on Team Mari, but maybe
I was gonna say, Kathleen trying to slide in. We're all on the same side. Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I've been on record hilariously. I think it was Dark Matter with Luke and Kyle. And anyone, if you're listening on Dark and Twisted, we cover the Apple TV shows on the Core podcast. That's where you'll find Dark Matter, Severance, Silo, etc. I was on record saying, like, I totally didn't say that. And then somebody was editing and they were like, you definitely said that. It's like the commercial where they throw the flag. So we'll have to play that back if I word it wrongly. But now I do want to say There wasn't much from Van in this part of the episode, but I will say, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but when people started to get riled up, and I think it was Shauna at one point when she was kind of coming at, responding, making it seem like she wanted blood, and that happened a few times. I got a look from Van similar to the look that we got when people were calling her out with the Javi scene on the ice. If you guys recall, it was kind of like a fire in her eyes, like a glare, like a, I'm in this kind of look. I think Van is going to go Shauna-ish at some point. Darker.
Are we under the assumption that at this point, because we are all, the three of us, I think, subscribing to the theory that Bad Ty lit the fire, right? And that Van might know that. And that's why her hallucination/vision was with the fire. And like, there's all this fire imagery. Like we're working under that assumption. And if that's the case and Van actually knew and was so confidently voting to kill Ben, that is so savage.
And if that's true, Ty doesn't know she did it. And she's defending.
100%.
Right. And she's going against Ben and not realizing she actually did it.
Ty still might not know if she did it.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's
like to this day.
At
100 present day.
To this day. I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
If Van lets Coach go down for this, knowing that Ty started the fire, then she takes that secret to the grave, because there would be no reason to say a word to anybody else. And she's just going to hold that guilt to herself, knowing that she let an innocent man go. Now, what I will say, the Van that we have seen up to this point in the series, I don't think she has had a break in her morality to that extent. I think that would be kind of like what you were saying, Jimmy, her turning point to turn her a little bit more towards the Shauna of it all. But also, like you pointed out, the moment on the ice, we have seen that kind of wildness in her eyes. So maybe she gets there. Who knows?
Yeah, but that moment on the ice, I remember us talking about it and being like, the wilderness took over those girls when they were chasing after
what
Nat,
wilderness,
like,
Kathleen?
Sure.
What freaking wilderness?
Okay, let's talk about the verdict, right? Because we had 1,000 revotes, but the guilties were Shauna, Melissa, and Van. And man, I am so not team Melissa. I'm like, you're a bad influence, dude. Don't you like egg Shauna on. Shauna needs to come to the better side. Like, Melissa's a bad influence.
Can I put out, to preface this whole scene, how ridiculous it was that they were doing show of hands, guilty, not guilty? It should have been Survivor style, right? They don't have pencil and pen. They should have each went into a hut and told Nat their decision anonymously.
I agree.
And that's how it should have been every single time. And they completely allowed the events to carry out so that Shauna could manipulate it. That was always destined to happen.
I talked about this in the intro, and I'm going to say it. All right. I'm done with Shauna for right now. I'm off Team Shauna. Okay? I am off Team Shauna. I understand she's went through a lot. But
Team Mari is like...
I'm not saying I'm Team Mari, even though honestly, Mari's got a better episode than freaking Shauna this episode. Both 96 and present day.
What I will say about Mari, she started not guilty and she did not flip when Shauna put her thumb down on the rest of the jury to flip. Mari stayed not guilty. So
see that muscle?
So this is something I really, really want to talk about, because we've talked about this in the prior episodes about what could happen with Nat and how they could get into where they go when it becomes as ritualistic and dark as it gets, right? I'm saying BS 100%. If I was Nat, I would be like, this is not, I'm as the judge, as the Antler Queen, not letting this happen.
Yeah,
okay?
mistrial.
Shauna outwardly and in front of everybody threatened them and was just like, you are, and even Coach kind of, but that's again to the point where he's defeated. He's just like, I knew this was going to happen. He just kind of sat there, right? But she was just like, you're gonna vote or I'm going to beat your ass, pretty much. Like, it was awful. What's the point of having the trial? You should have just let Shauna intimidate them all and let them just decide he was going to die in the first place. And what I'm getting at here is that I think the seeds have been planted that Shauna is going to hostile take over this group. big time. Her and Melissa are going to fully take over this group, as Shauna being, I'm not going to say she's the antler queen that we see for Pit Girl or anything, but I'm just going to say that she is, I mean, she could, I don't know, but she is going to be the person that makes this group go further to what we see. I really believe that. I think that her and Melissa as a team are going to be very scary because Kathleen, like you said, Melissa's a bad influence on Shauna. Melissa wants Shauna to be the big dog because Melissa is with Shauna.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and we know from this entire episode that Shauna wants blood. And I was laughing. I can't remember the exact moment, but when they're going back and forth on the trial and they're talking about what? I think it was when they were saying Coach Scott would have left Maury in there. And then someone's like, Shauna would have definitely left Maury in there. And then Shauna's like, that's not the point. And that's like, yeah, but it's true. Like,
Shauna's little eyebrow raised. She's like, yeah, it is true. Absolutely.
I'm just surprised. I don't know why I'm surprised, but like, I know how much Shauna's been through, but she's getting super dark and super bloodthirsty, and I'm not down with her at this point. I'm off Team Shauna.
The other Shauna flag bearer, I do tend to agree with you. I don't understand what her motivations for pursuing Coach so much, the hatred towards Coach. I don't even think she believes that he started the fire. I just think she has a lot of rage inside her, and she needs something to direct it at. And right now, that's unfortunately Coach. I honestly think after the trial, none of them did. I think Melissa was just following Shauna. Shauna's just full of rage, and Van might have her own motivations protecting Ty, and everybody else was not guilty. So it just sucks, man. I hate seeing Coach go down like this.
Yeah, me too.
Well, and let's talk about the sway of the votes, because Lottie was the first domino to fall, and there was a very wilderness breeze in the trees. Trademark breeze in the trees, by the way. Also, you should trademark. Earlier, you said hallucination station, which was
I like
lovely as well. But
Thanks.
Lottie is the first domino to fall. She felt the wilderness was backing Shauna's point here, and then Travis, Akilah, and Jen follow suit. And there we have our majority. So the wilderness played a hand in this trial.
Again, though, like you said, and like you've always said, Brian, you could devil's advocate the hell out of that, right?
For our podcast-only listeners, Jimmy rolled his eye right when I finished my sentence and going into his retort.
But it's giving you props for your prior point, though, because it's very good with the show. The show's writers are so good, where they're showing us the breeze in the trees. Is that what you said, Brian?
Oh, yeah.
And could that just be like symbolism for, you know, some kind of mental thing, whatever it is? It could have just be Shauna taking over them with her intimidation. I don't know. The wilderness would want Coach Ben to be killed. We know that. The wilderness just wants sacrifices. Wilderness wants to eat. And
what wilderness?
What wilderness, Kathleen? That's what I'm saying.
I believe in the wilderness.
I believe in the wilderness too.
Just getting you back. You deserve that.
Yes. The last thing I'll say on this is that we know Nat survives into the present day, and, you know, RIP actually, but you know what I mean? She actually survives past the wilderness. If we didn't know that, I would have thought that Shauna would kill her and take her spot. Like, honestly, if you can be Shauna and sway this trial like that, what's stopping her from just being like, Nat, sit the hell down. I'm the boss here. Anyone's got a problem with it, here's my knife. Like, I don't see why she wouldn't do that at some point, and that's what I'm worried about for the girls.
I think a lot of Nat's influence was undercut when Ty called her out in the lie on the stand. I think any power she had to manipulate the situation was gone from that point on. But I kind of want to wrap up this 90s storyline because we're 51 minutes in here. Melissa, after, you know, Ben Scott, you've been found guilty, whatever. Melissa goes to gas up Shauna. Like, did you see what your power can do? Oh my gosh, I kind of hate this. And then Travis, who has become quite the artist in his solitude while the girls were going hunting Coach. hands some tree bark to Lottie and just says, "This is the outcome." And it was what, 3 silhouettes kind of standing up, what seems to be looking at a horizontal silhouette of a body, and he just says, "This is the outcome." So I don't know how we interpret that. Maybe he's lying down on a, what would they call that? A pyre, like where you set a body ablaze or something. So
rotisserie.
Yeah, well, the 3
not
people could
rotisserie.
The 3 people could be Van, Melissa, and Shauna, because they're the 3 OGs that said he's guilty. It could be Ty. It could be Ty, Misty, and Nat. Who knows? But there's a lot of imagery, and it's going to be a lot of hindsight where it's going to be really cool to find out what it is. But one last thing is that Akilah does go to Lottie. We didn't talk about this. She does go to Lottie and say, I saw a hallucination. I was in hallucination station. And Lottie is like, nah, you saw a vision, and they're going to get started. That's all we really need to talk about.
Next episode stuff.
Yeah.
Shall we present day?
Basically, all we need to say, present day, Jeff's hilarious. All right, guys, thanks for listening to Dark and Twisted Podcast.
Jeff is hilarious. Jeff saved the Shauna Misty storyline for sure. Even a Jackie couldn't save really this storyline. The Jeff absolutely in his bag. I always like to see Jeff winning. Jeff saying 10 dad jokes in a row. I know Randy's upset and jealous, but man, was Jeff in his bag or what?
Jeff's the man. I'm going to get that cat. I'm going to find that cat.
Shauna's just Brian, like, that cat is definitely dead, Jeff. Get it out of your head. But this was fantastic. I can't believe
we haven't called Jeff Hefe yet.
Hefe. I've been thinking it every time you name drop him. I'm like, that was a thing, wasn't it?
That's a big season 1 and 2 thing. But yeah, I mean, nothing really came out of this. Shauna, how about Shauna still thinking that it's foul play with Misty? She's so stubborn.
I don't think she thinks that. I think she just doesn't want to admit it. I think she's stubborn. I think she just wants to say, I don't want to say sorry to Misty. I fully believe that. And maybe I'm just fully coming at Shauna this episode, but really, it just seemed to me that she was like, oh, really? It was the brake booster? It wasn't Misty? Oh, I'm not admitting that to her.
Yeah. Anyway, for the whole Jeff, karma, trying to get on this good karma side, I didn't mind this storyline because they did do some crazy things at the end of last season they just mentioned Kevin. This is episode 4.
Yeah.
Kevin, who they went to school with, who was a complete innocent, died, and they haven't brought him up till now. So I was glad that they had this little storyline. Shauna's just, Shauna's just Shauna. But even the Jackie storyline, it was nice to see, the parallels between obviously Jackie froze to death and now Shauna's in this freezer and Jackie's kind of like walking her through it a little bit. But I think the more interesting stuff is in the other 2 storylines. Do you guys have anything else in the Shauna one? We could talk about Misty too, of course, with the letter and stuff.
Right. The only thing I really want to talk about is this Jackie stuff. First of all, anytime we get more Ella Purnell, not expecting it, I'm very happy. But she does say that there's things that Shauna did when she returned from the wilderness that she has to amend for, or that she's having bad karma for, etc. So brought this up before, and I believe the showrunners did say that we are going to get some stuff once they get home. The bad stuff doesn't stop just because they get home, which we could expect.
I'm starting to think Melissa maybe made it out of the wilderness and there was a falling out between Shauna and Melissa. And that Melissa is now the one tailing her, which we've kind of been theorizing.
I will say that there has been theories out there that at some point, the girls break up maybe, or people drift away, meaning say Melissa runs away, similar to how Mari did at one point, and Melissa gets saved at a different time and they don't realize she got saved. People are just trying to figure out a way to have Melissa come back in the story where it makes sense, because the problem is that you had these seasons where all of our girls have talked in the present day and have almost alluded to the fact that there's no one left. Why wouldn't they be calling Melissa if there's a blackmail thing happening to be like, yo, Melissa, you get the blackmail card? Like all that kind of stuff. So there is some weirdness to it. There's ways they can write around it. There's plenty of ways. But one of the big ways was that people thought that at some point, if there's a rift, like you were saying, Brian, Melissa runs away and she gets saved at a separate time, and they just don't know that, and they think she's dead. You would think it would be news. Yeah, you would think that would be news, just like the other ones was news with the Yellowjackets. It would be tough. It would be very tough. But we'll just have to wait and see. This Hillary Swank stuff is kind of crazy because she was in the trailer and she hasn't been shown yet, and Callie still hasn't listened to that damn tape, man.
Oh my God, the tape.
Callie wasn't really in this episode.
Just for the karmic parts, where she's like, that's not my stuff, right? You didn't put any of my stuff in there.
Give me a karma to-go box.
Yeah.
That was good. She had a few good lines. Okay, Misty. Misty is kind of leads us into the Lottie of it all, but Misty and Shauna are fighting. Shauna's still not like apologizing to Misty. She has this patient that she comes in to see, sees a blank note, assuming Walter left it in like a fancy like lemon juice national treasure type deal. And she tries it. Seems like nothing came from it. But at the end of the episode, we do see that while there's nothing on the note, we get a text from Walter. I just saw about Lottie. A brain explode moment. I was like, what about Lottie? It's got to be, I mean, my brain went straight to death because what else would it be?
And then we obviously see that she was about to click on a crime scene of a dead body, and it was blurred for the explicitness, and then she was going to click, and she gets the text first, and then we get the actual scene where Lottie is there. And just really quick, we might as well just hit the Lottie bucket.
Yeah.
She gets a call from Ty. She doesn't really want to talk to Ty. She doesn't have much to say to her. And then she just keeps looking in a mirror, saying basically different ways to apologize to whoever this person is. And we don't know who she was going to see. What we do know is that is definitely the location that young Lottie saw in her vision when she was in the water in season 1, with all the candles lit and all that. We don't know where that is. There was theories that when it was seen in the trailer, not Lottie there, Brian. Again, this area seemed to be seen in the trailer. People thought it might be like a basement in her original mental hospital that she was in when she was younger or something like that. But we don't know. But what we do know is she keeps seeing these visions, and these visions keep coming true. What wilderness, Kathleen?
What wilderness? She's been seeing stuff since she was a kid, though. I think a big thing is just to connect a single possible dot is that Lottie was leaving a bank and presumably took out a bunch of money.
Good money. Yeah.
And we know Travis had taken out a lot of money. We think that's Lottie because he like went to her place and gave the money, whatever. I don't know how we really wrapped all that up, but it's just same thing happened to Travis, sort of, and Lottie. I don't know what Lottie was particularly going to do with it. Is there a world where Lottie's not dead? Or was this like Bible? Like she's dead. That's her body on the ground. She's dead.
I mean, she's laying there dead, and it's on the news.
She knows a lot of people.
Usually the rules are that if you see the body, we don't see her being killed, and we don't know if she dies, is murdered, whatever it is. I will say that something very telling was that she was calling herself Charlotte in these scenes and not Lottie. So I don't know if that means whoever she's talking to or whoever she's going to apologize to is somebody from that part of her life and not one of our girls. But either way, this is crazy. I was not expecting this at all.
It's a big hit.
It's an enormous hit. I don't know. Yeah. Part of me wants to believe that there's a chance she's alive, but I agree with Jimmy. The body's right there. Blood's pouring out. It's posted on the news, whatever. Like, I think it's curtains for her. Well, I am very, very, very interested to see who she was rehearsing that apology for, though, is the biggest thing. it couldn't have been Shauna because she felt guilt for doing the necklace thing. I think she was completely satisfied that she did that. And then I'm thinking, well, who the hell else could it be?
Yeah. I'm not going to give my obituary to Lottie yet. I'm keeping my eye on that. And I also think we're going to get a big flashback episode. So I don't think we've seen the last of older Lottie, whether she is dead or not. I think we're going to get some sort of scene, obviously. Maybe not obviously, but.
Two things. First thing is, she called herself Charlotte, right? Or was I misspeaking? Yeah. Okay.
No, she did.
And the second thing is, for anyone listening, apologies on my behalf where we get screeners and I watch on my phone because of the way the screeners are working for me. Was there blood pooling?
Yes.
Okay. Then I thought it was just like a body laying there. So yeah, I definitely think she's dead.
Corn syrup.
I'm so yeah.
I literally had the thought, is this like a staged photo shoot or something?
Yeah.
Is she like doing a commercial for like, I just didn't want to, I don't know what she'd be advertising, but we had the ice cream parlor using that creepy guy with no eyes. I don't know. I don't want to believe. I'm kind of with Kathleen. It's like, I am not yet ready to do it. But next episode, if she really is dead, then it's going to be the whole reaction to her death, like funeral arrangements, etc. It can't just be this mysterious trickle out thing.
Yeah, and I wonder how the writers will have to do it, because I feel like you have to show us the flashback of why she does it or what happens to her before we get the aftermath of them reacting to it. So it's going to be an interesting next episode. I
don't know that we necessarily get it next episode.
No, right.
Yeah,
whenever we do get it. Yes.
A later thing, yeah. I don't like it. I was almost going to say earlier, I miss older Nat. I do. I miss Juliette Lewis as Nat. She was so good. Not that I didn't miss her really the last few episodes because they were so strong, but in an episode like this, I'm like, I need my girl back.
Yeah.
But I'm going to wait on the obituary.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. The fact that it was on Misty's website, Misty and Walter's website, makes me think it can't be staged or like she was faking her death and it was on the news and you can hear like cops. And I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, moving us along, does this perhaps count as some sort of a sacrifice to help our girl Van, who goes on a little side quest with Thaisa this episode?
It could.
Yeah.
But
and
on purpose?
I don't know. We have me saying in the 96 timeline from the time that they're on the frozen pond to Van's look during the trial, where I'm saying she might be descending into darkness. This Van, at first they're both just like, all right, let's play this out. Let's see what's happening. Let's put the queen on the ground and see who picks it up. And we get a couple close calls with especially the one child. And then this man picks up the queen card, the Queen of Hearts. They follow. Van does say that he's holding a young girl's dress. And of course, Ty is trying to twist it. So it makes sense because she wants this sacrifice to happen, whether it's other Ty or not. We're not sure. But basically, the moral of the story is at the end of it, they get to the door. The door is unlocked. What wilderness, Kathleen? The door is unlocked, and it's Van that says, hey, we can't do this. I'd rather die from this cancer and spend this time that we have left together than kill somebody and sacrifice somebody. So it looks like I'm saying 96 Van might be getting darker, while our Van is a little bit different than everybody else here.
You know what's weird is until they got to the unlocked doorknob, I thought that they were just letting it play out. Like maybe if this guy picked up the Queen of Hearts, a tragedy would happen upon him. It wasn't until Ty was like, it's go time, where I was like, are they trying to murder this guy? That is not what I thought the plan was. That came out of complete left field, in my opinion, that there was no transition from last episode, the accident, to them being like, maybe we can artificially create these sacrifices again.
Yeah,
but
I gotta say, it didn't track for me. The whole beginning, none of it tracked for me. I didn't like it. I thought it was so aggressive. They took such a turn. Of course, where they ended up with the pretzel and the carriage moment, which was a callback from season 1, that made me forget until we're talking about it right now because that was such a
Yeah.
good moment. I didn't like that one bit. That's not my girls.
I thought they were gonna try to like put Van in danger and see if somebody else, like if she gets out of the way again or something,
Yeah.
will like die in her stead. Like I had no idea what they were going for. And then, we know that when the Queen of Hearts is chosen, they kill the person. Now, if you want to count Javi being killed by them, the wilderness chose, they say, and stuff. But still, yes, when she opened the door, I was like, Ty, like, was about to be a senator, is about to go into this guy's apartment
Yep.
and kill him. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, I think you're right. You were right to say that's not my girls, Kathleen, because I think
Yeah.
that had to have been other Ty, and that would be consistent with how jarring we felt this scene was. It was very out of place given the ramp up of the first 3 episodes. So I think that's other Ty being like, yeah, let's go all in for it. We're feeling crazy. But yeah, we got back to a little bit of normalcy when they go and have their date in Central Park, which was lovely.
So lovely. So lovely.
Van has her shaking hand.
Yeah.
Whether that means she's getting worse or it's just proving that she's still sick and it's going to get in the back of Ty's mind, we can wait to see on that. But yeah, that was a nice moment besides the handshaking. The other stuff was a little weird. A lot weird,
Agreed.
actually.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just it felt out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I'm glad
And
they didn't go through with it because then it can kind of just be like oh, what if they did? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it
it's
doesn't really
another
impact something because they didn't go all the way.
like what did you say about last season, Brian? Oh, Shauna killed some random guy and they had to deal with the repercussions. Like, do we want that again for
Right.
our
No.
for our present
No.
day
No.
friends? Yeah, no. So I don't know. Is
Yeah.
that it?
To me, it's just that the older women need to get back together. We've been seeing them in little like Misty and Shauna, Misty and Lottie, Van and Ty, but we need them back together again, and that's when the juice is made.
Yeah,
That's
that's
when
the magic.
that's the magic, baby. So we need to get them all together. But yeah, I think we're good. Are we buzz killing an MVP?
Sure. Who's up first?
I'm starting because I
Start it
haven't
up.
gone
Fair
first
enough.
yet. My MVP is going to be young Misty, of course. I think
Yeah.
she truly was the MVP of the episode. Straight fire from her. And then my LVP / buzzkill is going to be young Shauna because she's just one track minded and I tend to love Shauna and I want to love Shauna, but I can't really love her right now. And even adult Shauna really, but I want her to let me love her again. So we'll see. We'll see next episode if she lets me.
Yeah. Go ahead,
I
Brian.
like that. And I'm going to go next. My MVP is going to be none other than Coach Ben Scott. Like I said, I just really enjoyed his monologue here. I think it was heartfelt, and I've always been a fan of Coach. I just nobody can convince me he's the deranged maniac that burned down the cabin. I think he's just a good guy who's in literally a terrible situation,
Yep.
and he had a good episode. So MVP is going to be Coach Scott. You actually took my buzzkill, Kathleen. But I think I'm going to stick with the character and say adult Shauna.
Yeah.
I mean, her and Misty got to get over she's just being stubborn and annoying, and I'm over it. I really am.
Agreed.
Still not Team Mari, but I'm over it.
This is tough because you guys just nailed it. My answer was going to be Misty and any Shauna. So Misty for MVP and any Shauna for LVP. I'll go with Jeff for MVP just because he was hilarious. Not that I really think that's the answer. I would have Misty and Coach before Jeff. LVP, it's tough because I was so down on Shauna this episode that I don't really have another LVP. Randy didn't like that Jeff was just doing it in this episode.
Yeah. I mean, he stole his job.
Randy thought Jeff sandbagged him and killed his buzz. So I'll go with Randy just to be funny. Because I think you just saved me. No, okay. So what I will say is I'll go LVP with Ty. I'll do that. So
Adult Ty.
Oh, adult Ty. Yes,
There you
adult Ty because I do agree that whether this is going to shake out and be other Ty or not, it's a weird storyline and it's not a good look for adult Ty. We can understand that it can be played off as I want the love of my life to stay alive and I love her so much that I'll do anything for her. And it's leading to more answers about what they really believe with this wilderness and what quote unquote more, I guess, miracles, if that's the right word, will happen when they do more sacrifices to make them believe all of this. But yeah, to follow a random dude home, about to walk into his apartment in broad daylight and murder him, that's an LVP.
That's moment. LVP, yeah. That's a good choice. My other MVP choice is going to be Young Nat. I just like her so much, and I thought she was a good judge. But there's a lot of very funny moments. But anyway, okay. So that is the end of the episode. And next episode, hoping for way more information on Lottie, of course, and to find out the fate of Mr. Ben Scott. We will see. But until then, we have some other coverage going on that's not on Dark and Twisted. We've got The Core, which Jimmy said was our Apple TV podcast, and we've got Severance going on there, which is going really well. Final Form is our anime podcast, which is doing Solo Leveling. We've got Unreal, which is doing The Traders. It's our reality podcast. All the links are below. We also did a White Lotus episode. That is on this feed. We just finished Dexter Original Sin, which is on this feed. Go check it out. We'll be back for episode 4 on the White Lotus, and I'm already itching to get back on the mic because I loved it so much. But yeah, links in the bio. Join our Discord. Comment on our YouTubes if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything. But for now, thanks for listening. We are Bingetown TV /Dark and Twisted. And thank you so much for listening.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.